Perfect. Perfect. Hey gang, Ian at the Sword and Spatula Tavern here. We're going to be making roasted boar meat. For this recipe, I used a pork shoulder roast. It's really good. I hope you enjoy. We've got our wet ingredients comprised of olive oil, ground mustard, fish sauce or soy sauce. That's it, really. Makes a paste. Just kind of whip it together. And then we've got our dry ingredients. That's 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, half a tablespoon of garlic powder, 2 tablespoons of rosemary, 1 teaspoon of ground black pepper. I added about half a tablespoon of paprika in here as well, and half a tablespoon of thyme. So that's our dry ingredients. We've got a roughly 3-pound pork shoulder that we've let get to room temperature. It's still got a little bit of a bone in there, but it's still, boneless roast. And then what we want to do is anywhere where there's a lot of fat, right in here, we want to kind of cut that up. I'm just taking a serrated knife. Just kind of want to score that fat about an inch every so often. And then also, it doesn't have to be like a perfect crisscross hatch pattern, but you basically want to make as much surface area for that fat as possible. So the more you cut into it like this, the more area you're giving that heat to sort of break down the fat. And that's what we want while we're roasting, is that fat to really break down. And now I'm going to take a little bit of salt. Just a little bit. And rub it into those cuts we just made. Once that's been done, we're ready. It's pretty straightforward procedure here. You got your meat. You're gonna take your wet ingredients and just sort of cover it, your binder. And then we want to take our dry ingredients. Make sure those get rubbed in. Goodness, it ended up settling. Part of the reason I use the paprika is to help with this part. You can see where you've gotten, and you want to make sure, you might not use it all. Not everywhere has to be coated in rosemary, but everywhere needs to be hit with the dry rub, and you'll see that come into play. Thanks to that paprika, you'll see what you hit and what you missed. And now this would be the part, if you wanted, you could tie it to keep it together. See how it's kind of already like separating a little bit now that it's getting to temperature? Tie this up, you could bind it to keep it together, but I'm not a huge fan of doing that, usually just because I'm bad at it. But that's it. You've got the binder, you've got the seasoning on it. I'm just gonna go ahead and use the rest because you might as well. It ain't gonna fall off, And then once that's done, you've got a preheated oven at 450. We're just gonna get the roast onto a foil-lined racked baking sheet. Set it right in there. You want to get it on the side opposite the bone. And you want to get it into the oven. Now I'd say for any size roast under 3.5 pounds, you're gonna want it into the oven at 450 degrees for about 20 minutes, just to really cook the outside of the meat. As soon as that's done, what I like to do personally is I like to, if you have cooking spray, use a ghee spray, just sort of spray the outside of the roast to help with some of that crispiness. And then what you're gonna do is take the temperature down on that oven from 450 to 250 and just let it cook. Usually you're gonna wanna cook it at 250 for about an hour and a half-ish a pound, or until the internal temperature, if you've got that dedicated meat thermometer, reaches 160 to 165. Once the internal of the roast reaches 165, we're gonna take it out to let it finish cooking kind of on its own, just so we're not blasting with heat anymore, and then we'll move on from there. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a step back, and we'll see you guys in 20 or so minutes. Okay, Fist the Dwarf here. We're looking to make some roasted boar meat in the game World of Warcraft Classic Hardcore. All you need for this is one chunk of boar meat. You get this from boars in Dunmorrow, Lochmodan, Westfall, Elwyn Forest. If you are a Horde player, you get it in Durotar, very large area. Any boar will do in those basic areas. Just kill the boars, loot the boar meat, or in this case, loot the boar rib over and over and over and over again.
Brilliant!
Once you've got the chunk of boar meat, you just need to go pick up some flint and some wood to actually make a fire to be able to cook this. Also, if you didn't know, making a basic campfire, at least early in cooking, will actually grant you cooking skill. It does take a little time, which is nice, but you can do it over any fire. I just wanted to be fancy and buy the the campfire. Once you have that done, you just literally just click the button, make the boar meat, eat it up, and you're good to go. That's all you needed. It's a pretty simple, basic recipe that you get just from learning cooking, so anybody can make it. Good luck out there with your attempt. All right, it has been 20 minutes, give or take. Let's check on the roast, give it a little spray, and drop the temperature back down. Got some good color, starting to brown. Some drainage. I could have used a little higher rack, but it is what it is. We're gonna hit it with a blast of this ghee spray. Help really keep that crisp. And we're gonna turn the temp down to 250 Fahrenheit. Get it back in there. Get it closed up. For the record, after that 20 minutes, it is 72 degrees internal. So we've got a ways to go yet before we hit the 160-ish that we need to pull it out. So I turn the time back up, and we will see you as soon as it's ready to go. All right, we have come back now after letting it rest, finished getting the temp. It is still as juicy and delicious looking as it was when we left. Let's cut into this thing and get a good look at what we have cooked. Let's cut in. Look at that. Let's get a little thin slice here. show you some of that. See if the camera will focus. The fat has rendered down. The meat is juicy and delicious. Now, this isn't fall apart tender. This is good to be served knife and fork with some potatoes, some carrots. I bet this would be a very good sandwich. Slice it thin enough and get that on some bread. Every piece just moist. That binder doing a good job of keeping it how we wanted it. Sliced real thin. That's a success right there. So what we're going to do with what we've got left here is I'm going to slice some of it up, about half of it into 1/4 inch chunks for like an actual knife and fork dinner. I'm going to take some of it and kind of shred it as well as I can with this. For like barbecue pork, I'm going to make up a barbecue sauce, throw that pork in there, let it absorb, throw it on some rolls, barbecue, maybe with some slaw or something. And then the last third of it, I'm going to also kind of shred up, fry it up as best I can for some sort of like knockoff carnitas and make some tacos out of it. That's a 3-pound hunk of roast. Very simple to prepare. All it really takes is time. If you've got time and you've got an oven, you've got a roast, really. I would say if you don't have a leave-in thermometer for when you're putting it into the oven, I would leave it in the 20 minutes on high, and then I would kick the temp down. I'd come back and check it at about 2.5 hours. Like I said, about an hour, hour and a half per pound. We left we started at 20, so it ended up being 3-ish hours and it was cooked. I just come and stick it. You want to get it as deep in there as you can. Also, another good way of telling is if it, very little resistance, check your temp, pull it 160-ish, and you're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and finish preparing this. Thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you next week when we prepare the herb-baked egg. Get it on, because tonight is the night to become what